And so I want to challenge you to think about, okay, what if I were to use aps-c lenses, at least for video, on the a7 III? What lenses would those be and why and all that stuff? I'm very interested in what your thoughts are in that comment section right underneath that subscribe and notification bell. Hey there, everybody. This is going to be maybe not quick, but I'm going to try to keep it quick. Conversation about full frame versus crop mode on the Sony a7 III for video. So I'm gonna be speaking solely about 4K because that's really all that I'm interested in, as well as like the HLG. So I just got a 4K HDR TV because I'm shooting 4K HDR now, and so it makes sense to be able to actually be able to grade that footage. It's weird because I'm having a hard time figuring out how to turn the HDR mode on, but I'll figure it out. The thing that I wanted to bring to your attention was these two clips that hopefully are playing over top of me now. I would love it if you could comment below what your impressions are on which one is which one's full frame and which one's aps-c, because I think you're gonna have a bit of a hard time. I certainly did watching it on my brand new fun little TV. So the thing is that I've been thinking a ton about building out my lens lineup for Sony full frame E-mount. But I am like fundamentally extremely practical with how I think about photography stuff because it is just a hobby. I'm not making a whole bunch of money off of it. I'm definitely not making a whole bunch of money off of YouTube. So like I want the 55 f1.8, I want the 16 to 35 f4 Zeiss lens because that's a great wide angle zoom to be able to have in the bag. But if the crop mode is, at least for video, roughly equivalent to the full frame mode for 4K video, should I spend all the money on like the Ronin 14 f2.8 that might not be that great, or the Ronin 35 f1.4 that I've heard not so great things about since I made the video saying that I wanted one, which I should have waited a minute before I made. But basically all those Ronin AF lenses were I was told by people that should know that I should probably not get into those if I wanted to use them for, cases when I needed video autofocus and stuff like that. So my thinking was very quickly like, okay, does aps-c work? And in my opinion, it does. I had a very hard time distinguishing. If I hadn't shot those two clips, I would have had a very hard time distinguishing which one was which. So I'm really seriously considering picking up that 16 f1.4 because when the ronin-s finally comes in, I've contacted B&H 5 different times, and 5 different times they've given me 5 different answers on when I'm going to be getting that. So that's a little bit irritating. It's not their fault, it's DJI's fault, but they really need to get their story straight. Yeah, so when I get that in, I'm going to want something a little bit wider than what I currently have, a little bit faster than what I currently have for gimbal work. I really want to get into a lot more like walk and talk type of stuff. And I'll need a lens that can handle that a little bit better and not also weigh a metric ton on the gimbal. And the 2875 doesn't, but I want it to be able to be more compact so I can balance the gimbal a little bit more easily and all that, which makes a lot of sense, right? But so that 16 makes a huge amount of sense, right? All of a sudden, because if the issue is the 4K video quality, I can't tell a difference between the full frame and the aps-c. The reason why I don't want to use my Alpha 6300 is because I don't have the HLG profile, so I can't control those highlights well enough. So I can't get the image that I want ultimately, because at some point those highlights are going to blow out or the shadows are going to be too deep. There's going to be something a little bit funky with it. I can control for all of that with the Sigma and with a variable ND filter, right? I want that shallow depth of field, and that's going to be the way that I'm going to get it. So I made a video talking about the a7 III and the Sigma 16 f1.4 a while back, talking about releases, and that's gotten, enough views for me, and I was really happy with that. But it's funny because now I'm shooting on the a7 III talking about how I'm going to get a 16 f1.4, and I've already gotten one and reviewed it. I had a ton of fun shooting with it, and I really like that lens. The thing that's kept me from thinking about it seriously is I don't want to use that 6300 if I can help it, because the color profiles and the color science in the a7 III is so much better in my view that, Anyway, you get the point. So the 16 will actually make a ton of sense for me to get for use on the a7 III. I really appreciate your time and your attention as I've been talking through this. This has been kind of a work in progress in my mind, and I really appreciate having the opportunity to get some of these thoughts out there because it's a little bit liberating. I really hope that you have a lovely day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the